Good evening. Thanks for coming out. Could I ask everyone to please rise for Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you very much. Welcome again. I just want to share that there was an executive session held on October 30th at 7 p.m. and this evening as well regarding legal matters. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as presented? Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you very much, Sam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have an agenda. Thank you very much. Just like to share, I know some folks probably came out tonight just to chat a little bit about or share your opinions on the fire and EMS issue that the borough certainly has been struggling with over the past few years and certainly very currently as well. Very frankly and candidly, the borough is still trying to figure out what's in the best interest of the borough and how to best solve the issues in terms of the growing fire and EMS costs that the borough and most townships and municipalities have. We basically understand how difficult the economy has been, the cost of those services, the reduction in volunteers, and especially the skyrocketing costs when it comes to the capital equipment. Some of these, the machines, the trucks, the pumps, the ladders, are literally doubling and more in cost, and that's putting a huge burden on everyone who's tasked with that. There's no question that the fire and emergency services that we get from our providers has and continues to be second to none. It's phenomenal. This is simply not simple at all, but it's a financial issue for the borough in terms of how can we best afford the fire and EMS that we certainly need at the best cost. So the general fund is where we cover it. What the borough has been trying to do over the last couple of years and more urgently this year is to see, is there a way that we can reduce the cost of services? Do we have to increase taxes yet again? Are there other areas that we can cut costs to make sure that we can afford fire and EMS? And we've been aggressively looking at all three of these areas. Matt and Kathleen have certainly been our point people on this, working really a lot tirelessly to get this done. As you're aware, we postponed the meeting we were going to have last Monday because we just want the time to figure out and do all the due diligence we can to come up with the best solution we can, along with fire company, to make sure that we have the service and we are providing the service we need to. Certainly welcome comments later in the meeting as we get into it related to this or any topic whatsoever. With that, may I ask the borough manager, any comments in your report, Kyle?
Just thank you to our police and streets teams. We continue to have a lot of events in town. They continue to do a great job. The race, as I understand, was really a success this past weekend. So thank you.
A couple of quick questions. Kyle, can you give us a status on the heating situation in this building and where we are with that contract?
Well, the contract is moving forward. It's for the police station. There was an issue between our architect and the contractor, and some equipment was removed. We've basically made do with the equipment that we have. So we have the ability to heat the building throughout the winter, and there's a process between our architect and our contractor to resolve the main issue.
We have a timeline on when that will get done.
They're working on it, hopefully soon, but we at least have the ability to heat the building while they go through that.
Will they cover anything that happened? Because it's working a fuller system than it was designed for.
Yeah, I think the takeaway is they're going to leave it in the state that they agreed upon. So if there are issues that come out of it, they make that whole, they make us whole, for lack of a better word.
And then the other question I had was with the sale, with the police starting to moving into this building, what's the status of the sale of that older building?
Yep. So we went through a series of reviews, some environmental reviews, with the idea being that if we went through that, we could then place the building up for sale with no considerations at closing. We've gone through that. We're now in the appraisal process, and that should get finished up pretty soon.
Thank you. Mr. Rungus, anything you want to share?
Yes, just very briefly, the legislators have made updates to the Pennsylvania Borough Code, and we are working to put forth that information to Kyle and the Borough Administration, as well as making the necessary recommendations for updates to the borough's code itself.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Chief,
Good evening. So I did submit a report to you last week. A couple things I would like to add to that. We did receive notice last week that the LSA grant we had filed for in the end of 23 was approved. So we're going to be receiving 34,670 towards additional cameras and security improvements for the police department and for around the borough building here. So that was wonderful news. We had, as Kyle mentioned, a lot of events, a lot of real busy month in October. Halloween obviously kicked off in the borough on the 31st. We had a great turnout, no issues, no incidents throughout the town. A lot of officers were out and available. We had people crossing on Union Street in 2 different locations due to the high amount of kids that wander around. So again, very, very great event. Mushroom Cap was this past weekend. Wonderful event. A lot of volunteer participation to make that happen. The police, the public works, honestly, everybody did a wonderful job. So we were happy that that kicked off without any issues. Obviously, we have our general election tomorrow. We've been working with Chester County and our district attorney's office as far as preparation for it. So everything is in place, and we know that we're going to have a good and fair election tomorrow, and everything will be safe within the borough here. Last but not least, we moved our operations of the police department down to the new police station this past week on the 28th. We were able to essentially move and only close to the public for 2 days. We reopened on Wednesday with a lot of special thanks going to our favorite Lieutenant Ken Rongus and Sergeant Chris Gravina. They are 2 little workhorses. They carried pretty much all of the police department down here themselves. I helped a little bit. But no, a lot of work and a lot of thanks to them, because between the 3 of us, we were the main movers of the entire department.
Really?
So we are really, really fortunate. And last but not least, Rob Moran. Without Rob, we would not be in this police department. Rob has been my key master. We have literally ran through multiple issues, and every time it comes up, Rob fixes us and gets us where we need to be. So Rob, thank you very, very much. And if you have any other questions on the report that was submitted, happy to answer anything.
questions, council? Chief, 5.8 pounds of pharmaceuticals were passed through the department to get rid of, to get off the streets.
Yeah. Now, granted, that is a collection of 2 months. We weren't able to destroy them last month, so we held on to them and did them at the single collection this month.
Can you, I'm not sure everyone's aware of that service. Can you briefly share that with everyone?
Sure. So we have a collection box in the lobby. It has moved down to our new lobby here. It is open for any medication disposal that we don't want anybody throwing away, flushing down a toilet, or leaving around the house for maybe to get into the wrong hands. So you can come into our lobby any day of the week. You don't need to speak with anybody. It can get put right into the collection box. The box is locked. You don't need to take it out of the containers that they're in. You can just put it in there, and we will take care of it, usually on a once a month basis, up to the county collection site where all the medication is collected and incinerated. Great thing to have, and really people have been taking advantage of the service every day. We have somebody coming in all the time.
That's wonderful. Thank you for doing that. And also want to shout out to the department for Halloween. It was electric. The weather was great, but there were hundreds of ghosts and goblins and more Taylor Swifts than I think I ever want to see in my life. Well, it was great to see the police presence and the cars just driving around the town and slowing traffic down. And you did, guys, was phenomenal.
We have an incredible group of officers here.
Very much.
We're fortunate.
Absolutely. Any brief question from anyone in the audience for the chief? If not, is there a representative from Longwood wants to share kind of an update, key points, any issues going on, guys? Okay.
Highlight overview.
Come to the mic.
So sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
So this past weekend, we had a outside training instructor come in from Nick Martin. He's a battalion chief, I think, in Salisbury, Maryland. Came in, he taught us regionally to all three fire companies an engine company operation class. It just went over all the different things that you need to do as a part of an engine company. Sam came up on Sunday and witnessed a lot of it, answered a lot of questions, and we did that regionally up at Westchester Training Center.
Great, thank you. Thanks very much. Going down the committees and the boards and commissions, Joel, finance highlights?
Finance got together in last month, but did not have an official meeting due to a lack of quorum. But I can attest to the great work that Kyle and Nick have been doing to get our draft budget put together. That is going to be put up for consideration in today's meeting for us to take a look at. And we are all working diligently to have a final copy that we can vote on in December.
Thanks very much, Joel. Kathleen, Tim, development?
Planning meeting, met and they were discussing their, survey for their short-term rental, and they'll be bringing forth a, presentation of that in the coming months, I think.
Thank you. Timothy, anything else? Julie?
Yeah, so we had a few environment committee meetings this month actually to understand what kind of target areas we want to develop in the town or revitalize. The last meeting, we kind of walked the town and identified 5 locations that we're trying to kind of improve. And so we're putting together plans and renderings, and in the coming, hopefully, weeks, we'll be able to present more on that. But we're hoping really to kind of make some not only modern updates to some kind of key moments in town, but we're also trying to revitalize kind of like as you go into town, the trees and the bushes and the flowers. So it's going to be definitely an undertaking that'll probably take some time, but we're hoping to start this in 2025, and it's going to be really exciting.
Thank you very much. Public safety, Mr. Mayor?
Yep. We reviewed 2 event applications, which we'll talk about when they come up as action items. We had a long discussion. I don't see Louise here. Louise Rossi from 600 West Linden and several other folks in that section of town came in and shared their concerns about the traffic and the parking from the new apartments, as well as folks using Linden Street kind of a cut through to avoid going through the center of town, especially during the construction of the apartment complex, because it was taken down by a lane there. So we heard several requests, and we had a nice conversation about that. The chief identified some action items and has been following up on those and keeping them abreast. I'm sure it's something we're going to continue talking about, especially regarding parking. The residents are concerned that there may be more off-site parking that could impact the neighborhoods there. So we're going to continue to monitor that and continue to work with them on that.
Thanks very much. Ellie, community relations and right into infrastructure?
ACOLA and the Human Relations Commission didn't meet in the last month. Human Relations is only meeting on an ad hoc basis now. So moving to infrastructure, we had a meeting on October 15th. There was a sort of a walk-in on issue. One of the committee members raised a concern that the crosswalk on Cypress Street that would takes you right across into the Wawa, I think it's Washington there, that he had witnessed almost a pedestrian getting hit there because one lane had stopped, but the cars in the other lane didn't, and they couldn't see the pedestrian because of the stop traffic. And that led to a broader discussion of just an interest in improving pedestrian access on Cypress. And this kind of blurs into the desire to repave Cypress as well. So there's some discussion that maybe that should be a broader discussion about how to improve Cypress, not just pave it, but make it more pedestrian friendly. The second issue we talked even longer about was the new EPA requirements. You want to say anything about that, Rob, or should I just try to summarize? So the EPA is now requiring water providers to identify and replace lead service lines over the next decade. This is a huge undertaking. We have there's no written records of what the service lines were made with, and all lead or galvanized lines need to be replaced. So we were brainstorming ways of trying to figure out which houses have the lead lines by asking community members to look at them. It's really a huge undertaking. How many water ratepayers do we have, Rob? So we have 1,700 houses that we need to identify whether or not they have lead lines. And the regulations get more and more severe over time. So right now we just needed to put an initial inventory in, but over time we're going to have to address this. That's it.
Thank you. And thanks, Public Works, Rob and team, for getting those roads, primarily alleys, I think, paved this season. That's great to see those new roads up there and running again. Thank you. Yeah, are they all done now for the season? Yeah, thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Just quickly, I represented the borough at the Longwood Reimagined opening on Saturday. If you have not had a chance to go, if you're a member, it is limited to member previews right now till the 21st of November. So it's a great time to go and see it, but they are timed tickets. So you do have to have a time on there. If you do not have your own membership, just as a reminder, the library has passes that you can check out. So you can go and use the library's passes to go check out Longwood Reimagined. They've done some great things there. For those of you who've been tracking the information regarding the Genesis buildings in town, they were there was a contract in place to purchase them. That contract fell through at the end of the due diligence period. I understand that those folks may come back, but they were at the end of their due diligence and did not choose to extend it, but they may come back. And there are some other additional interested folks that are touring this week. So there's a lot of effort being put into what the future of the Genesis buildings could be. And I think, again, currently Genesis is using Chester County Economic Development Council to market them and to look for potential users. So that's been the point of contact. But there is certainly a big push to try to get them sold and get them redeveloped. Also, if you've not seen the announcements, on Thursday evening this week at 6 o'clock, at the Kennett Library, there will be a presentation from the prospective buyers of the MVF site. It is under contract, and they'll be presenting their plans for redevelopment to the community as a chance for everybody in the community to see the plans, ask questions, hear from the experts on the cleanup that has happened or is in the process of happening. So they're going to do some community facing events prior to bringing their plans to council so that everybody gets a chance to weigh in. I'd encourage you to go. Thursday night at 7 is the first meeting. So it's a good time to go and hear from the developer. Sorry, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock on Thursday night in the library auditorium. That's it.
Very much. Special events, the Kennett on Top. Chief, Matt, or is there a representative?
The application was reviewed by Public Safety. We recommended that it be approved as submitted. It's the same event as the last 2 years, same time, same resources. They do reimburse, for costs, and it is we've had no issues in the past for the last 2 years.
Issues.
And use the Rotary so they give back to the community.
Last year, they raised $14,000 that they gave back from that event that they gave back to the community. So it is a fundraising event and I said Longwood Rotary, didn't I? It's Kennett Rotary. So my apologies. It's the Kennett Rotary that has that event.
Any comment from council?
Move to put Kennett on top on the consent agenda?
Unless there's any discussion or objection or comment from anyone in the audience? Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? It would be on the consent agenda. Thanks. And thanks. It's a great event. Get out there and experience it if you can. The next item is the consideration of the Sylvan waiver request Rob, a little background, please. I know we've had this issue a couple times, and is Mr. Forte here as well? Thank you very much. Rob?
This did come in front of council. Okay, this did come in front of council a couple months ago, but there was an issue, I guess, with scheduling out or communication of when it was going to be in front of council. So actually I spoke with Ellie and she thought it would be a good idea to give them a chance to come in and speak. They have had multiple violations of the MIP program, that's Municipal Industrial Pretreatment Program. Most of their issue is with overages in volume. And they've been working on trying to get it straightened out, but right now their fines are up to $40,597.20. And they are here to ask for an appeal of the fines.
Thanks, Rob.
Richard?
Ms. Ritchie? Please.
Got it. Thanks, everyone. So as you guys said, I'm Richie Forte, and I am the regional manager at Sylvan America located. Oh, I'm sorry. 652 West South Street. We are involved in the MIP program, as Rob said, to self-monitor and self-report our wastewater discharge, and that's why I'm here. So I've been a part of the Sylvan team since January, and over the past year, Sylvan has received notices regarding wastewater compliance issues. And first off, want everyone to know that all of us at Sylvan takes each of these notices very seriously. In response, we've made significant improvements, including substantial investment in our facility. To date, we've invested a total of $190,000 to address these issues for repairing and upgrading our infrastructure and replace any faulty equipment. We initially suspected that some of the issues might have been influenced by external factors like stormwater infiltration. And on December 18th, 2023, we had a torrential downpour. I wasn't a part of the company, but my colleague Brian Angelucci had hired KBX to videotape all the sewer lines. And it just so happened we were doing it and on this torrential downpour. And we found out that that's where this problem was occurring. So not any industrial discharge coming from our company, rather than infiltrating from the groundwater right there on South Street. Since then, we have replaced, we actually did a UV lining of that line, 100-foot line of a 4-inch sanitary line, and that went very well. I actually have some data that I can share with you real quick. We performed the UV lining on March 12th. And on March 9th, bear with me here, looking for my notes here. Okay, the National Weather Service reported 1.89 inches of rainfall in Kennett Square Township. Sylvan recorded 1,500 gallons of outgoing sewer water, which exceeds our permit limit of 1,000 gallons. That happened 3 days prior to us doing the UV lining of the sewer line. On March 24th, post-repair, following a 2.58 inches of rainfall in our area, we recorded 710 gallons of outgoing sewer water. So we are definitely making strides. That investment alone on the UV lining was $24,000. Okay. We do have another line to do. I was leery to do it right away because that 100-foot line, right, had 4 cleanouts that after you do the UV lining, you have to reinstate those lines. The next line is much smaller, but it has 13 cleanouts. That 100-foot line took the company all day to do. And I'm making sure that when we do this, we do it right, that they can get it done. Going back to my notes, bear with me here. Okay, and then Rob talked about us kind of going over this, and then there was a lack of communication when it came up. We remain committed to compliance and to being good neighbors in Kennett Square. You know, the MIP program is a collaborative program, federal, state, local. I believe we want to be a part of that too, to help fix this problem. You know, if you think about it, if you guys don't have this program in place and we're not a part of it, you know, anybody could have infiltration in groundwater going into the sewer system and not know where it's coming from. We are ready to mitigate that problem 100%. And we've made many strides this year. I kindly request the council considering waiving these penalties, considering the proactive steps we have taken and our demonstrated commitment to resolving this issues. I hope we can work together on this.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Rob, why are you recommending that the borough does not waive the fees?
Because there was, this did come in front of them, in front of council about a year ago. And during that time, council said that they were going to do, I believe it was a 50% waive, but it was a one-time 50% waive. So I bring this in front of council because it's your decision, but council has already said it was a one-time.
Okay, thank you. Questions, comments from council? Joe?
So Rob, you're saying that this amount of $40,597.20 is additional fees that have, or penalties that have been incurred since we did the 50/50
Yep.
waiver last year?
That's right, Joe.
Okay.
Other comments, questions?
I'm a little confused about the stormwater infiltration. So you're saying stormwater is infiltrating your lines on your property before they get to where we take it, but all of that water is going through the sewer plant, right? We still have to process it.
That's correct.
Do you have documentation of the last fine?
No, but we
Remember
can get it.
I'm just,
because
I wasn't a part of Sylvan back then, so I just want to know that I can bring it back that we were fined and it was levied to 50%.
Yeah, I mean,
Rob-
it's in the minutes, so
Okay.
we can pull it up.
Okay, great.
Rob, other than the excess flow, which we have to treat, did we incur any penalties from
No,
any of
we
the
did not.
regulatory bodies?
No,
Okay.
no.
Unless there's any other discussion, is there a motion to putting the waiver of the $40,597.20 on the consent agenda? There's no motion to do that, so it will not be on the consent agenda.
Do I motion that?
No.
Oh.
That means that it will be on the Wednesday agenda for further discussion if you'd like it to be. If not, then
Absolutely.
it doesn't get waived.
Yeah.
Okay.
So another
thank you.
meeting on Wednesday?
Yes, Wednesday at 7 o'clock.
Okay,
And it's Mr. Forte, not Mr. Ritchie. My apologies.
that's okay.
Consider the approval of Police Department Collective Bargaining Agreement. The council representative, there's a team made up of Andy, Rongus, Kathleen, Kyle, Nick, and Chief Holdsworth, who've been involved since early in the year, actually February, and myself, to come up with what we think is an agreeable substantive agreement that rewards our officers, motivates our officers, allows our officers to compete with other towns and police departments in the area. And that has been back and forth for a number of months. It was a very congenial set of discussions, probably, gosh, 15 or so over the last couple of months. And we've come up with a contract that we think is fair to the officers and fair to the town or the borough overall. So with that, we do have a draft. We're looking potentially for a motion to move it forward if possible. Are there any discussion or comments from anyone on the team? First, Kyle,
No, I would recommend approval.
Andy,
No, I would recommend approval as well.
okay, Clean.
It was a healthy back and forth and, I think that all the parties are in agreement, so. Recommend approval.
Okay. Any other council discussion? Any council from anyone in the audience? With that, is there a motion to approve the terms of the Kennett Square Police Association's competitive settlement agreement in principle, with the final language and contract to be agreed with the solicitor and then signed by the appropriate signatories
I'll motion to approve
for the consent agenda.
for the consent agenda.
Is there any objection to putting it on the consent agenda? No. And again, this is also contingent on the Officers Association agreeing to it as well. They've not formally done that either, so both sides have to. So with that, thank you very much. And next item for consideration is the CLG Master Grant Contract.
Sure, I'll hand this over to Lexi, who is our manager for planning, zoning, and code enforcement.
So this is just a contract that is renewed every 5 years. It's just stating that we're eligible for state and federal grants in exchange that we ensure that we provide the best practice to preserve historic preservation. So it's agreeing that we will make sure that we do our best to take care of historic buildings. We are already granted as a certified local government, which is great because we're 1 out of 49 out of over 2,500 in PA. So that's all it is. It's just every 5 years we sign this contract stating that we will do our best to preserve the history in Chester County.
And this also gets us first in line or the
Yes.
front of the line.
Yeah, that part too. Yeah, so it allows us to apply for grants and we get special consideration for Keystone grants.
Thanks, Lexi. Mayor, council, comment, questions? Anyone in the audience, please?
For Andy, we're assuming some legal responsibility. Did you read that clause?
Yes, let me turn to it.
Yeah, it's
Page 3.
4-1, Roman numeral 4-1. I just want to make sure.
Yes, we are assuming liability resulting from negligence or other intentional actions or admissions. However, we are not waiving our rights to sovereign immunity under the Borough Code. So, and the Sovereign Immunity Torts Act. So we have reviewed it and we are okay with the language as it exists now. We're not taking on that liability without waiving our liability, towards liability. So we're still covered by that.
Okay, thank you.
Any comment or question from anyone in the audience? Is there any objection in putting this on the consent agenda for Wednesday? No. Thank you very much. Kyle, tell us about the LSA grant on behalf of Longwood Fire Company for $511,000.
Sure, this is a request to submit a grant through the LSA state process. The idea being that the heart monitors and AEDs for our fire and EMS provider, Longwood Fire Company, will need to be replaced here over the next couple of years. So this is an opportunity for us to leverage something that we're good at, which is going for grants and being successful to help to pay down what we know to be an equipment cost coming. And unfortunately, some equipment that we know some residents will eventually use.
Comments from council? I would say this is certainly an attempt by the borough to show good faith, to say that, hey, we want to continue to work together. If we can get this, certainly there's a $500,000 plus financial benefit to the fire departments that would use that equipment. So, and I know we still have a few miles to go before we're there, but I hope the community and most especially the firefighters and EMS folks see this as a gesture of trying to collaboratively work together to our mutual best interests as cost effectively as we can. Are there any comments from anyone in the audience? Is there any objection to putting these on the consent agenda for Wednesday?
No.
Thank you very much. And consider the authorization of advertising the Chapter 7 ordinance amendment, the adoption of the International Fire Code.
I'll also hand this off to Lexi to go through.
So this is just us adopting the 2018 International Fire Code. We have not adopted the fire code in our ordinance yet. So it is just a code that's renewed every 4 years to establish minimum requirements for fire safety. So we can enforce that throughout the borough, and the fire department can enforce that as well.
What are the major impacts of this to the way that fires are being managed in the borough right now?
More so with rental and resale inspections and making sure fire sprinklers are up and working, and that they're where they need to be, and that we can enforce the fire sprinkler inspections.
Has the fire company had input, or do they agree with this?
Yes, yeah. Chief McCarthy and I have been in discussion about this.
Great. Thank you. Kathleen?
So is this a major change from what currently exists, or?
We currently we have the Boca Fire Code, which is from like 1997, I want to say. So this is a much updated version that's needed to be adopted.
Lexi, there are other alternative codes that we could have adopted. Did you look at those others, and why did you pick the International Fire Code?
Because we have adopted the 2018 International Building, Residential, and Property Maintenance Code. So they all go hand in hand, working with the UCC and the ICC and the state of PA. So
Okay.
they all flow well together, and Chief McCarthy agrees with the writing of them as well.
Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? Thank you. Trail easements for Square Roots and the Kennett YMCA and Anson Mixon Gateway Trail.
Sure. This is a follow-up to an item that I believe came to council in September. If you'll recall, there was a path that had been built by volunteers years ago, and there's now been a house built. It was on their property, but it broke this pathway up. So the Kennett Trails Alliance has offered to remove that and pave it. It's gone through our stormwater review process. The last step here is to make sure that we have sign-offs from the individual affected property owners to actually go ahead and pave this trail. So we're getting in at the very, very last moment we can pave before the winter, if this is approved.
Is there anyone from the Y or Kennett Square would like to talk? Comments from council? There? Any comments from anyone in the audience? Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda?
No.
Thank you. Letter of intent for the DCED limited parking study.
This is a follow-up to a previous council vote. Council had approved that we move forward with this project. If you'll recall, the state DCED had offered someone's time and new employees to review our parking policy for State Street. And they came back to us after our last action and said, we actually need a particular document signed off. So that's what this is. It's no change in the scope. It's just a particular document they need approved.
Thank you. Council questions? Any objection to putting this on the consent agenda?
No.
It is on. 2025 budget. Mr. Manager?
Sure. So I'll go through, it's about a 10-minute presentation. If you'll recall, at the last meeting, we had a workshop that dipped into it. This should be a more detailed review by fund. Just a thank you up front to Nick, who's put a lot of time and effort into this. Our different departments have gone through the budget process. It's never an easy one, but they've gone through it. And our finance committee has also helped on this effort. So
could you share with us the budget review process from here to the end of the year?
sure. So a vote tonight, which is a vote on the budget and anything that we do with taxes, authorizing us to then go through their state required advertisement periods. So the thinking is that the state doesn't want a municipality to vote on something without anyone knowing. So there's these, for bigger items, you have to advertise a certain amount of time in advance. So the vote for tonight is whether to advertise, our plan or what the plan is. And then in December, you actually vote on what that plan would be. Sure. So I figure I can go through this. It'll be about 10 minutes. There's a lot of funds to go through, and then take any questions that anyone has at the end. Thanks for setting this up, Rachel. Uh, So the presentation outline is essentially going through how did we get here? What's the importance of our planning efforts and timeline each year? Some changes we've had in personnel, not particular people, but just in terms of where we have more staff or less staff. An overview of our capital investment that continues to be a really important element of this budget, and we'll go through that then. Then we'll go through in painstaking detail the dozen funds we have, and then we'll finish with questions and discussion. So we do really put an emphasis, you've probably heard it before, we put an emphasis on our planning process. And the thinking is the more deliberate and essentially boring this becomes, the more opportunities there are for public input, for council input, so no one's getting surprised. So in the spring, we've done this the last couple of years. We're probably going to move to a every other year cycle to line up with council terms. In the spring, we pulled together the community. We did that in a couple sessions this year, open to the public and our staff and our council and the mayor, and we come up with the big priorities. So in previous years, it's been investing in roads and infrastructure. It could be a variety of things, but that's really your high level set of objectives. Then in the summer, we vote on our capital plan, which says, given those objectives, we're going to repave this road and that road. We're going to, purchase this truck or this equipment. It's essentially the big items you have to deal with. And then the budgeting process that we're in now is filling in all the smaller details. So the minor equipment, and the staff that actually goes ahead and does all of the work. So we're at the end here. This is what I mentioned before. The idea is A, to get input from the public, to be transparent, and B, it's to be more efficient with your staff time. So if you ask, Google Maps to find a dinner spot, you can choose it, and that's essentially council says the end goal. We can find the most efficient way to get there. But if you change at the last minute and say you want to go to the other side of town, you've wasted gas, you've wasted time. So theoretically, if we can get ahead of this and plan it, we're making the best use of staff time and resources. A really big acknowledgement to Nick of our staff. So we've secured our 13th consecutive clean audit with no findings. And we were also recognized by the Government Finance Officers Association. It's the professional organization for this field for excellence in our financial reporting. So it's a long way of saying that outside agencies have checked that we're doing things the right way, that we have the right controls in place. And from a very egghead kind of nerdy perspective, it's really difficult to do that with a small staff because you have to have enough people touch any check that's going out the door or else you lose those controls. So with one person for much of the year, that's really difficult to set up a system that does that. So kudos to Nick on that. In terms of personnel, so the next two slides will get at this. We've been really fortunate last year to have very little turnover. We're continuing to invest in the staff that we have. And we're just thankful for the people that we have here. We've made a couple changes. So we've pivoted in a few areas to tight budget. So we save where we can. We've pivoted the assistant finance role from full-time to part-time to save some money. We've pivoted on the life safety inspector. So those are residential apartments that are being inspected from full-time to part-time, save a little bit of money there. And we're proposing to use those savings to bring in an administrative assistant for public works, as well as a streets laborer part-time. The streets labor position is easier to explain, right? Those are the people picking up, mowing, right? They're cleaning streets. They're doing the day-to-day work of keeping our town up. The administrative assistant is, in large part, we've gotten really good at getting grants. You'll see later, we've brought in millions worth of grants. Those bring with them a lot of documentation needs and a lot of strain. We've also done a really good job through the Kennett Square app and some of these dedicated emails of answering resident inquiries. But again, that takes time when really you want your staff out in the field doing the work. So we think these are some good trades. And yeah, we had some staff turnover, but in the last year, we've really stabilized and I think we've brought in some really good people. Capital investment. So going back to the value of the strategic planning process, this was the main takeaway for the last few that we've done here. It's a fancy way of saying investing in roads and sewer pipes and water pipes and the things that really are the backbone of the town, oftentimes underground, and you don't get a ribbon cutting, but you have to invest in these things. We previously were investing very little, and now we've you could see about a 10 times bump in that over the last few years. In addition to that, so I have a breakout here. We don't need to go through it tonight, but about 8.5 million in grant funding over the last 3 years. The unspoken secret of our capital funding is that it's largely used as matches for larger funds. So the work that you see around town is not, it's not really the capital money we've set aside. It's really what we're able to do when we take that money and, 3, 4, 5 exit with outside funding. I apologize for the small text here. That was me. The police station is one of those big projects. So that's largely with state money, $2 million, as well as about $700,000 in state, our allocated stimulus money. So we put that into this project. That's the vast majority of the money. Last year, we secured about $1 million in federal funds towards our sewer treatment plant upgrade. It'll cost much more than that, but this is better than not getting $1 million. The Bird Street construction project has been worked on and advocated for many years now. That's a combination of either 2 or 3 grants, basically stacked on top of each other. That project's hopefully going to start here pretty soon, late 24. As you drive around over the last couple of years, I hope that you've been able to see paving throughout the town. In the past, our funds would allow for about 1 alleyway a year. And we've been closer to about 10 a year for the last couple of years. But that's because of the investment that's been made. And then lastly, speed tables and crosswalks and repaving of Willow Street is a combination of some borough money, but also a county grant. So now, just as a heads up, this budget is on our website. It'll also come out in the newsletter, the next e-newsletter to come out. Now we'll start to get into some more details. So the revenue for this budget calls for a 0.3 mil tax increase. That's about 2.6%. A 25% increase in residential permit fees, which goes from, Lexi can correct me, but I believe 100 to 125. And the solid waste fund, which would be a 5% increase in the garbage fee. And we'll go through the details on these. I think that this is helpful. It's tough to understand where all of your tax dollars go. So if you can see, the colors bleed a little bit. The school district is about 2/3 of the taxes that you pay. Another roughly 10%, 9% is the county. And then the remaining quarter is the borough. So that's the pie chart on the left. The one on the right then says of that 24% to the borough, where are your funds going? And the hope is that with resident input, with council input, that ratio matches what you would hope it would be. So police is a major, funding source, but you get a great service in a safe community. Capital is a little skewed because your building debt is coming out of that fund. So it's capital, but it's not necessarily just roads. Emergency management is that 10% number. That's really your fire and EMS spending. And then you'll see the smaller ones are administration and finance and legal and streets. So again, we'll get into each of these, but from a very big picture, that's where your dollars are going when you pay your property taxes. Looking, here's where we'll start to go into each of these funds. Combining administrative, finance, and legal out of the general fund. You're looking at a 12.1% increase, but realistically, 65,000 of that is a comp plan update that's then allocated across funds, because that's your planning for infrastructure and development and environmental projects. So really, your increase is about 7% or so. Police is about a 5.6% increase, which is really significant because this includes the proposed new agreement. So we're holding those costs pretty tight, given that it's a union negotiation year. Continuing in the general fund, our streets department going up by 5.8%. Again, those are a lot of the team that you see out every day working in the borough. At some point, you have to group some of these things. So recreation, shade trees, library, community funding, and other services is a significant increase of 54%, but 182,580 of that is a required reserve allocation. So the increase is actually substantially less than that. Then moving on, you have capital in your general fund. Now, to clarify, you also have capital funds in your sewer account and in your water account. This is your general account. You're seeing a reduction by about 70%, but like all of these funds, you have one-time things that skew it. So last year we issued debt to do our police station upgrade as well as Birch Street, because the grants secured for those are primarily reimbursement grants. So you have to have your funding bridge that we then pay back when we get the money from the state. So you'll see that the capital fund is actually down slightly from last year when you consider that. Liquid fuels is a really easy account. This is every time you fill up your gas, you pay a little bit of tax. The state takes that, runs a formula, and sends the money back to municipalities. There's a pretty limited amount of work that you can do with it. It's largely some snow removal and streets paving. So 162,000 projected next year. I think about 120 to 140-ish will go into repaving. So it's in, and then we send it back out. Looking at this, we have about a combined 921,000 going into roads next year, plus funding that we get from grants. So if you do out the math, you assume there's a deferred maintenance of about or accumulated depreciation of about $2 million a year on our grant or on our roads network. So even as we've increased our budget for this, and we've been really thrifty in that, we still do need to go and get grants to help to address that. The next big project will probably be Cypress Street. And just for perspective, paving is going for about $1 million a mile at this point. And that doesn't include if you add sidewalks or crosswalks or traffic changes, anything like that. So you can imagine 26 miles of roads at $1 million a mile today. You've got a lot to sort of keep up on. Looking at our planning, zoning, and code enforcement function, we've actually reduced this a bit. And the change from the 24 to 25 budget is that we've moved off of quite a bit of spending from a private contractor that we had on board. We've saved by bringing some of that in-house. And I think that we're getting a more responsive service out of it. Parking is largely unchanged, although the number is a bit misleading. You'll see there it's a drop in 18.7%, but of that 198,000, it compares to 200,000 set aside for capital repairs and rewiring work at the garage. So depending on whether that hits in 2024 or 2025, it's either an increase for 25 or it's a decrease from 24. So it's largely unchanged except for wherever that project lands. Our sewer account, this is relatively straightforward, but you can see there that it's going up by 237,000, but you have a net increase of 104,000 going into capital improvements at the sewer plant, and you have a net increase of 159,000 going into reserves. So when you combine those together, your spending is actually down a little bit. So in a lot of cases, you're starting to see we're trying to maintain, or in some cases, lower our operating costs and really put money into capital replacement and reserve. Our water account, it's pretty similar to previous ones. So 582 of the 902 is going into capital. Again, these are capital intensive, technology, machinery intensive efforts. So it's normal to invest a lot in capital. And there's 250,000 in there that we had budgeted, in the first draft for a capital project, and we just didn't take it out. So that'll be taken out for December, but just to give some context. So the number is actually about 650. Solid waste is another relatively straightforward account. Essentially, we get a contract every 4 or 5 years with a trash pickup company. We take that amount and we divide it by the number of users, and that's essentially what you're paying. So that increase of 4.75%, that's dealing with that. Emergency management is really a dedicated account for fire and EMS, which we receive via contract with Longwood Fire Company. So that's a review. Again, happy to go through any of it, but a big thank you to Nick in particular for his work on this.
Thanks, Kyle, and to Nick and all the managers. It's a lot of work to get this to this stage. We appreciate it very, very much. Council questions, comments? Sam?
Yeah, it was a $250,000. It was back maybe it was 250,000 from the water account that was put into coded as an operating transfer, but that's just going to go away because it was actually a 250,000 capital allocation that was included. So it was double counted.
But from the presentation, we pulled the line item sheet. It looks like there's like close to $1 million being transferred out of water and sewer. We get a line item breakdown of what that is being used for.
Yeah, so and Nick might be able to add some more details, but in each of these accounts, you have operating transfers because so take my costs, my salary, benefits, all of that, and just say it's $10 for the sake of simplicity. You're going to charge 5 of that to the general fund. You're going to charge 2 of it to sewer because I spend some of my time on sewer. You're going to charge 2 of it to water because and vice versa, all through these funds. So the operating transfers are paying back the general fund what the general fund is paid up front. So a lot of those operating transfers or share of debt on this building, things like that. But there's a standalone 250,000 item, and that's going away.
We get a
Sure.
sort of break.
Sure. Yeah.
Sam?
Yeah, I got a few more. Just because this just brought up a couple questions. So we spent like $44,000 in maintenance on the building this year in 6 months. but we only have like 18 set aside for maintenance for next year. We think it's gonna be cheaper this year.
So I don't think it's not, there's some changes to how we're accounting for it. So Nick, could you explain the change in the taxes and how we're accounting for that?
This thing on, okay. Okay, I'm sorry. What was the exact question again?
So the municipal building, the maintenance on the building, so the last 6 months has been like 44,000 in 2024, and then we only have 18,000 budgeted for all of 25. So is that just an accurate number, or?
I think are you looking at the right line? Are you sure? Because we have 38,500 budgeted for 2025 in maintenance.
There's,
Um,
it's hard to know because we were given one that was marked 10-9, and then on Friday we got one that's marked 11-4. So maybe I'm not up to date on that, but
You may have the first draft.
yeah. So,
We
yeah,
have.
but I did my homework on the other one, so.
So we have budgeted on that line item, the maintenance and repair line item for this building is 38,500 for 2025, as of this second draft.
And then there was another question about street markings. That was just, line item was decreased by 70%. We still have crosswalks and parking that we get complaints about consistently. So I want to know, have we budgeted enough for that?
Yeah, could you remind me what page you're on?
No, because I wrote notes.
Kyle, it's page 7 near the top there.
Yeah, so the item was reduced because the money wasn't being spent in 2024. So,
But is it because we just didn't get to it, or?
yeah, I'm sure we wanted to, but in a tight budget, you have to make reductions.
But we consistently get requests from residents to update our crosswalks and parking lines. I think
Sure.
that's a oversight.
Okay.
I know we get that question in public safety consistently. And then, you did mention, I wasn't finding funds allocated for the maintenance of the parking garage. It seemed like those weren't there, but you mentioned that you do have that, so I just didn't see it when I was looking at the one.
Just pull it up here. What was the question again?
The parking, there were not funds allocated for the maintenance of the parking garage specifically, but you did say it in your presentation, so I just wanted to confirm that we were setting aside some of that funding because it looked like it was being moved.
Yeah, so in the current draft, there's just over 35,000 for capital purchases. We've also set aside, we have about just under $64,000 reserve, which obviously we don't want to touch that, but if we had to.
Okay.
And then also we're making a significant investment of 200,000 into some issues with the garage this year. So if that doesn't get done, it gets pushed into 25.
And what was my next? So with the potential increase for fire and EMS, how is that going to affect some of the other budgets? And have we figured out where that?
Yeah, so we have set aside some funds in our reserve because we have a few items that are still outstanding. So
We're not committed to whether or not we're increasing.
that's right. We're proposing it, but we're still trying to figure out where these things end up.
That's it.
Joel? What's the tax increase in this budget right now?
0.3 mils.
The version that we're looking at today, 11.4, there were working papers that we had, which were about $86,000 less. Did we get the county's real estate numbers in since last week, Nick, or how?
We're still waiting on those numbers. So that's part of the reason to be cautious at this point.
Okay. Is there upside to that or downside or?
Unfortunately, I've gone through 3 budgets here. In 2 years, it's been positive, and last year it was a negative of about 30,000. So it can be a pretty significant hit.
What wage increases worked into this budget?
Yeah, sure. I should have mentioned that 3% for non-uniform staff. And then the uniform staff was per the proposed agreement.
Which is 3.75 first year, 3.5, 3.75, 3.5, 3.75. Do we have funds in here for utility infrastructure safety improvements?
We do. So it's either in this or it's coming the next one. But we had planned to set aside 50,000 for water and sewer treatment plant security upgrades.
And likewise for IT challenges to make sure our networks are secure and so on?
We have not allocated for that, but it's one of those we'd like to find funding for.
Okay.
How much?
Probably between 10 and 15,000. So we're still working on getting a quote.
Thank you. Unless there's other questions, any questions or comments from anyone? Sir, if you don't mind coming up, just state your name, where you live, where your address is, and your comments.
Yes, my name is Bill Grubb. I live at 610 West Linden.
Bill, could I ask you to come up here? Just there's some folks on Zoom that are listening in. Thank you.
I live at 610 West Linden. And my question to you, sir, is do you have a detailed cash flow for all this?
Yeah, we have our
You-
financials.
You're showing all the inputs, all the expenditures?
Yep.
Because you have 1.9 million in debt that you just paid. How was that allocated within your funds?
What page are you, or what are you referring to?
I'm looking at the number right down on number
Oh, the bills page. Yeah.
14H.
Yep. So Nick, can you give some more detail on that? It's probably a combination of this building, a few other things.
Is that the budget? Is that the bills to be paid you're talking?
Bills paid.
We're gonna hold off on that. Just stick with the budget questions for right now.
Well, that is a budget question.
How's
How
that?
do you pay for this? Do you have all your cash coming in by month, by project, and your expenditures going out at the same time?
Yep.
Do you have any deficits during the year?
Nick, do you want to? I mean, a deficit during the year, we wouldn't be able to pay it unless we're taking out debt.
If you had to do it, would that be in your cash flow?
Right, yeah, we've accounted for how we fund everything.
We have to balance the budget each year. It requires.
I understand that,
township-
sir. I'm looking, you have a balance sheet, you have a P&L, and you have a cash flow. They all have to tie together.
That
And that's my question.
that is correct.
Yes.
So we
Yes.
could look at a detailed cash flow
course.
statement.
Yeah.
Is it over here on the table?
No, but we could print it out for you.
Okay, if you would, please.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep.
The total budget this year, if you have a question, please come up to the mic. Total budget this year is general fund budget is $5.9 million proposed at this point. And the total, if you bring all the different subcenters of the budgets into total, it's about $14 million, give or take. And the reason it's give or take is because there's transfers, as Nick said, between one fund and the other. But the general fund is the one we focus much of our attention on, is $5.9 million. Please.
Margaret Oplinger, 251 North Broad Street. As I look at your budget for the general funds overview on the recreation, shades, trees, library, community funding, and other services, it's an increase of 54.6%, but for what? That's a big increase for I don't know what. I mean, we already paid to the library. we're paying taxes for that. That shouldn't be your expense because you gave up your $40,000. So I don't know why that's on there. And then as far as, I don't know what the rest is. I'm asking.
It's a fair question.
Sure. So as I go through here, and I can give you a copy of this, Margaret. The largest increase here is to our reserve account. And this is in large part due to our previous resolutions in the borough that require us to have a certain reserve level. So 180,000, 183,000 of that increase is going into a reserve account. Right. Other expenditures and transfers, right. What's that?
No, this is it's a grouping of about 6 or 7 different departments in this one particular number that you're referencing. So Kyle has mentioned the increase in setting aside operating reserves for future years. There's also a 34% increase in the non-uniform pension plan that's required for us to set aside for payment next year. Those are the this is just this is just a way because otherwise we'd have 15 slides here for each department. So we grouped most of the departments. I'm trying to find the exact slide. We grouped some of the departments together.
Margaret, one of them was other expenses. So that's where you get some of those things in there.
Yes, that other services. Yeah.
We're trying to put a 50-page budget onto one PowerPoint slide. That's simply it. The detail that you're looking for is in the budget itself.
If it's for pension funds or whatever, why isn't it listed under something other than recreation, shade trees, library, and community funding?
And other services.
Administration, something. That doesn't make any, sorry, it just didn't make any.
Well, we keep our pension is kept separate from it's a non-departmental expense. So that's the way we have it in our accounting system. We don't have a pension expense in each department. We have a separate department for the pension expense.
And this budget is online. The actual line item budget, which we're kind of flipping back and forth, is available online right now. It's still a draft, but you're more than welcome to grab it. And we'll certainly talk about it again on Wednesday evening if you have other questions. You have hard copies of the budget? Okay. Feel free to grab one on the way out if you'd like.
Richie, can you help her? Thank you.
Thanks to all the smart people in the room. Tacked it from a real beneficial point for me, because what we should see here is a budget. We should have a comparison to what it was total budget last year with all the different things that you account for in a chart. And then it should show this year. And sometimes it's even showed 3 or 4 years. That's the way it's always been. So we could see the progression and we didn't have to guess at it. And we don't blindly or haphazardly clump things together. So we can't understand where the money's going and why you would be doing all these transfers. It's supposed to be a solid figure that you've come up with. Nobody ever should be transferring anything out of the water and sewer because the citizens pay for that. That is a service. That is a solid amount that goes in there for future maintenance. And when I heard here that somebody's going, we take from there. No, you cannot be transferring. It is not anything that has that kind of fluidity. So when I hear that, I'm upset. It's always been said in Kennett Square, you do not borrow or mess with the water and sewer because we directly pay to support that. Our funds. And every time we turn around, you need a new meter. We already had them meters. We already had that modernization. You don't have to do it every 10 years, whatever. Do it until you need them. No, nobody's complaining about them breaking. I just heard up here about lead pipes. Lead pipes been for years. And every time a plumber comes in your house and works, he'll tell you he can't put them back in there, that he has to use that. I guess I'm gonna call it PVC because I'm not proficient in that, but that plastic stuff. It's not your job. It's not your job. That's for an expert, and it doesn't happen up here. I've had enough plumbing in that 100 and some house that I live on that I can tell you, they update it when they come and they educate you. The people who do the job. Because that's why we have different people working in different areas of life. But the things here that I'm reading is also the parking garage maintenance. We already did that. We already did that. And when we did it, we had Bosley and them on the finance committee come here and tell us they needed to reconstruct a bond. Oh, it was cracked up there. They never did any maintenance on them all them years, which was a lie. And then we already did that. So then you build a brand new one that shouldn't need all that right now. What I'm saying is I think you got a lot of stuff there. You're trying to get money from us. And it's not actually the actual things we need, and it's too much on the plate. And why are we doing anything on Birch Street? As I said, if I keep hearing about Birch Street, because Birch Street don't even hardly have a resident on it. There's other streets that need paved in this town, and all the paving I seen that you did that you're patting yourself on the back for has been a patchwork quilt. If you look on the other half of West Linden Street, it's just a little block before because the Friends' home's there. And 2 or 3 where you live because it's there. I drove around. I took pictures before and afterwards. Some of them didn't need it. The alley or the street, I'm gonna call it, by the mayor's house didn't need it. And back of your house, Mr. Norris didn't need it. Center Street where she lives didn't need it. Every place you touch is there. But yet you don't talk about the things we really need to have here to keep our EMS people safe. What they built in back of the Friends' home is out of control. Shouldn't be there. But you're not following any rules. And I'm going to correct one thing. It's not citizens' comments time yet, but I'm going to sit down because I'm getting it all said. The bottom line is when I talk about we need to be sworn in, that's because you've been handling codes things.
Darla, we have a 4-minute limit, even when.
Oh, you had a 4-minute on the budget now? It's not citizens' comments, is it? No, but what's going to work on?
Citizens' comments on the budget. And
Anytime we can talk about something, a special issue, it's an open meeting where we get to go. I don't get to go for a half hour, 10 minutes, but I get to go thoroughly so you understand me.
We understand.
And like
you,
I told you, if you could
but-
do something with the.
We understand you allow other people to speak if you would,
Oh,
please.
where it at?
Is there any other comments from other folks who would like to?
Other people and anybody out there that's listening.
Okay.
Vote. Remember to vote tomorrow and vote in 4 years, 2 more years on the local level.
I would suggest that we do not put this on the consent agenda, that we allow us to take a look at it for Wednesday. And certainly grab a copy off the website, or Rachel's got a couple of copies if you'd like to look at it. It's literally every single line item. You can answer those questions. And you can certainly feel free to call Nick and Kyle if you have specific questions that you'd like answered. The budget is totally transparent, totally based on the input, and it's certainly the most important thing I think the council does on a yearly basis. So we want to make sure it's right. Thank you. With that, is there comments on the bills in the amount of $1,977,363.90? Joel?
As I mentioned, I wasn't sure if we wanted to include this in this month's budget because Finance Committee did not meet to take its own vote to approve, to bring them up to council
Okay.
for approval.
Okay, fair enough. Questions from council? Has everyone had a chance to review it? Is there any objection to putting this on the consent agenda? Thank you. And now is the time of the meeting for public comments in general. Again, we ask.
We have meeting minutes, Bob.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you very much. We do have two other items. The approval of the minutes from October 7th. Any comments, edits from the council?
The only one I have for that is, while here in spirit, I was not here on the October 7th meeting. So should be marked absent.
Thanks, Joe. Any other comments? Any objection to putting the October 7th agenda on the consent agenda? Sorry, minutes on the consent agenda. No objection. We'll have them on there. October 9th. Any comments? Any objection to putting these on the consent agenda? Thank you. Thanks, Joe. Public comment. Please come on up to the microphone.
Again, my name is Bill Grubb. I live at 610 West Linden Street. And I'm going to talk about your favorite subject for at least 12 minutes because there's two other people here that are with me that have the same issues.
It's fine. You have 4, but that's fine.
All right. Okay. What taxes do the people that are inhabiting the State Street or the Kennett Square apartments pay?
What taxes?
What taxes do they pay?
The same taxes that everyone else does.
Do they pay an occupancy tax?
No, I don't.
Why not?
There's not an occupancy tax in the borough.
Do they pay a 1% income tax?
Yep.
Okay. Pardon?
Yes.
They
Every
do?
Resident.
All right. Do they pay for the water or the waste
Yes.
individually, or does the company pay for it?
They pay their fair share of the bill. I'm not sure whether it comes through the landlord or not.
Okay. Well, there are questions that I'd like to have
Sorry,
answered.
Rob.
It does.
It does.
There's a single metering.
Single meters. Okay. The property restoration project. Prior to the start of the building, I attended a zoning meeting. And basically I asked the question, are those stanchions going to be taken down? And I opened it up to their lawyer. I opened it up to their business agent, and I opened it up to the building contractor, and they all agreed that those stanchions would be taken down, and they have not been. The second piece of this, that ground that they've been working on for the last 3 years, they were supposed to put that back together again as it was. That has not happened.
Your first point, Lexi, could we ask you to follow up to see if there's a legal agreement regarding the stanchions?
At what location?
This is State Street Apartments?
Yeah, that's correct.
And the lights?
These are the lights that are on the field across the street from the apartment building.
Okay.
They were put up there when they had a car lot there.
Okay.
Okay, they were supposed to be taken down.
It's on the record. We'll certainly follow up. What was your follow-up question, sir?
The follow-up question is that they have not restored the land. What they have done is they have taken down the fencing, so to speak, but they have done nothing to clean up around the borders.
I don't think the project is done yet, Lexi, is it? Yeah, so. they
I
still
have spoken to the maintenance people or supervisors, and they'd say they passed it up the line. I have heard nothing. I gave him my telephone. I gave him my address.
Well, they don't have the final sign off from
They
the
do
borough,
not.
including paving, I believe.
They do not have a final CO yet. So
Yeah.
all of that needs to be
Okay.
cleaned up before they get that.
Signage. Have you seen that sign that they have out there in the building? They have. What color is it? It's a solid white.
Brown, white, okay.
Solid white. That reflects right into my living room.
Okay.
I'm sitting on the hill looking into the second and third floor apartment building, so I can't walk around naked any longer in my own house. I know they would be ashamed of me, but anyway. Now, look, I'm not saying that they should take it down, the sign. All I'm saying is that put a timer on it or change the color.
Sign lit?
Yes, 24/7.
Lexi, could we also ask you to follow up on
Yeah,
that to see if
so-
it's in, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the light can be illuminated, but it can't project past the property line a certain light candle. So we can look into that and get that measured.
All right, and the last is parking. They are openly suggesting that they park a second car on Linden Circle and West Linden Street. and the alley between State and the Circle.
Uh, Le- Lexi, we've had numerous
Is-
discussions with the,
Yes,
The other.
I've had,
Now,
yeah,
hold on one second, sir. Go ahead, Lexi.
I've had numerous discussions with the property owner and the leasing manager about the parking issues, and I believe it is going to come to public safety about the options to limit their availability to park on those streets. So
why can't we get permits
that
for the parking for the individuals that have houses there?
that's one of the options that we are looking into.
Mr. Mayor?
Two streets down, they have them. Why can't you just come up Linden Street and put the rest of there? And would we be grandfathered on the permits?
It's on the November Public Safety Committee agenda.
So that's on the 19th? Okay, I'll be there.
7 PM.
I'll be there at 7 PM. And the last thing is, where's the last thing? Oh, yeah, they put a big swale on that property across the street too. That was not there at the beginning. And I asked the maintenance people what it's for. They said, oh, it's for excess water. I said, look, we haven't had a bathtub full of water in the last 3 years. That would be above ground anywhere. Fix it. Okay, so I haven't gotten an answer from them yet on that.
And that's a code enforcement issue. I guess, Lexi, can you follow up on that, please?
Yeah, that would be part of their stormwater management plan, but I can follow up on the
Yeah.
exact.
Okay. I'm done. Thank
Got
you.
it.
4 minutes. Good job.
Well, I could have gone through a couple other things, but
Sir, do you want to borrow one of my robes? No, okay, never mind. Never mind. So I'm pulling your leg. I'm pulling your leg. We're gonna go leave that one alone, ma'am.
In my haste to be in 4 minutes, I get ahead of myself often. So what I want to say is that my point I was trying to make, we have that liquid fuel money for 162,654. It should have accumulated by now because we never fixed nothing.
We use it.
It should have been pure. We haven't fixed a thing in years. Don't tell me what we use it for. I've been here. You won.
We use it every year, though.
No, we didn't.
Eh,
We didn't do one thing every year for over 15 years. The first thing we did was Cypress Street. And we did it again. Billy Carrazzo was on council then. And that's what I was saying. The street paving and liquid fuels money should be accumulated somewhere. So we can give more money to that. So we can do the streets like the top of Magnolia that was ruined because of Magnolia Court being built. And the humps that's over there that you just ignored. So we can talk about Washington Street that's a mess. Okay? And the haphazard way they paved that street next to that house going up to West Linden Street. Okay? Now, I'm Charlotte Watson, in case you don't know it. Okay? And I want to tell you that those sconces, or whatever you call them, I can tell you about them because I had a lawyer and NVF and any business owner in my home. And they have an agreement that they should have had a nighttime mode all those years. That's why they went off at like 10, because they were shining in my house. And I live on Magnolia and Washington. So they don't understand that grades and all those sort of levels, how light permeates. And then you have all the garages from Magnolia Place. And then you have all the street lights, your street light and theirs, and no one has taken in consideration what that means. They're not the only people with an impact. I live on the cross streets, both of them. And we have wider streets, so we get a lot of traffic. So you're talking about NVF. NVF that you're gonna let go through because that's your baby or somebody you know. And I'm asking you people to stand on it, to say no. And the zoning changes do not make them or give our stuff away. Do not give alert to tax exemption. Don't give it. We can't take another impact of traffic on that end of town, and you're ignoring that, and you never polled a Kennett citizen. So I'm saying you need to get up, wake up and smell the coffee. And quit looking at me like I'm some crazy woman, because I know what I'm talking about. You can't live 74 years and be crazy and dumb at the same time. Okay? So they're the things I see. I see many more things, but they ask right. $837, $1 million, or 837,000, I think, and 369 for that recreation stuff you were talking about. Who can do recreation when people can't feed themselves?
Any other comment? Please, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy D'Antonio, 220 North Broad Street. I wasn't going to mention this, but when you talked about the apartment parking, I know someone who was looking at one of the apartments and they were told they were going to pay, if this is true, $80 a month to park one vehicle. If that's the case, there's a real issue, in my opinion, since they don't have enough parking. So anyway, just thought I'd say that. Number two, I had to call the borough today
I missed your point. I'm sorry.
because how come they're charging $80 for a parking space? I think that's crazy. We don't have enough parking. Some people aren't going to pay that $80. So that's my issue. Number two, I called the borough today. I do not like the new message. I hadn't called for a while, but I didn't appreciate staying on the phone, listening to that long message and not being able to punch in an extension. And the nice lady that works there said the manager wanted the new system. So Kyle, I'm just letting you know, it's a waste of time.
Okay.
So, sorry, that's my second thing. The third thing is we were here Monday night and I don't know who was ahead of the meeting that was supposed to take place about the EMS and the fire company, but there were only 5 people here. So the word got out that the meeting was postponed. Who was in charge of that? Of notifying people, because obviously other residents knew that it was canceled, but I get text from other townships that I could care less about. Honeybrook, West Pikeland, meeting's been canceled. I got nothing. So we came early thinking it was going to be crowded, and we waited a half hour until somebody walked up to the door and said the meeting, there's a note on the door. So who was in charge of that? Because there was a 4-page article in the Daily Local and it said the meeting's Monday night.
Notifying that we had canceled that meeting?
Yes.
I presume it was staff. I guess that would be on us.
There was
Well-
there was a note on the door, was there not?
But that's
Okay.
not right. I mean, I planned my whole evening around
I
that.
guess we could have sent out an email communications in fairness. That's,
Yes.
yeah.
Our time is valuable too. I appreciate your volunteering, but
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that
Good
point.
point. Fair point.
And we're
Thank you.
Yeah. Ken, what would you like to share with us this evening? Oh, okay. Thank you. Gabby.
Hi. So this is actually on behalf of Longwood Fire Company. I should have said it in the report, but I just want to remind everyone while you have a captive audience about the burn ban. So no open burning. We're still in a dry season, even though we had some rain on Friday. It's still not enough. It's really important because we end up chasing down every campfire controlled burn everyone's calling, which is good because it's a high risk for a lot of factors, but I just wanted to remind people that that's still in effect and it will be, I believe, until November 25th. So.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, but that includes fire pits too, right? So even if you have a good fire pit, you can't have an open flame.
Yes.
Okay.
Even if you have like a hose next to it, sparklers, things like that, all that.
Thank you.
Margaret Oplinger, 251 North Broad. Okay, so I just wanted to say a couple things. State Street, down by the new apartments, there is actually this curbing sticking out with this grate. But we've almost hit it twice now because we didn't even know it was coming up or that it was there. And it's sticking way out in the street. So I don't know, is that a permanent?
Lexi, we're going to defer that over to you or Rob.
It's a bump out for traffic calming, and they are also going to be putting well, there's a drain there too, a storm drain inside of it to capture the rain coming down, but they're also going to be putting a speed table at that spot. So it'll be slowing down traffic. They're also supposed to put delineators in there and paint lines on it. There should have been cones there at this point. There's nothing's there. We'll check into it, but last time I was up there, they had cones.
That thing sticking out like that?
That was the
There's storm drains in other locations that don't have concrete things all around.
that was the approved design.
They still have to pave that road, so I think there's, hopefully, things will.
It will still be a bump out, but it, like I said,
That's
it's it.
That's a hazard. That it
it-
really is a hazard.
Well, the good thing about it is there will be a speed table there also. So people are going to have to slow
You
down.
can't see it. You don't even see it. You don't know it's there.
Well, that's why they're required to put delineators there and to paint it. So, but I guess it hasn't been done yet. There should have been cones to make sure that it directs traffic away from it.
Okay, that's one thing. Okay, so the other thing is, thanks for your response.
Yeah.
The Airbnb survey, I didn't know about it. And then I hear it was on the Kennett Collaborative thing. I think that should have been sent to borough residents and borough residents only, because it really has nothing to do with people outside our borough, unless you're an owner of an
They
air.
were able to, they sent it out a couple of times and they were able to, on the back end, see if you were, and it's a question.
I didn't get to vote. I tried to. It was too late, obviously.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about it. Anyway.
They want to do it again.
That'll be on the agenda for Wednesday night. You can certainly express your opinion again.
Okay.
then. Absolutely.
The other thing about the parking, I understand exactly what he's saying, because on the Kennett community page, people were saying, oh, well, you can park, people that rent at the apartments can park on Sickle, Linden, Lincoln, all that whole neighborhood. So I can see where this is an issue, and I don't know how you resolve it because it's borough
Well,
parking.
If you come to
Agreed.
public safety, we're talking about it at public safety. Chief has already done some speed studies. I live over there. The police car's been there to sort of hopefully slow down traffic. I think that has been working. And so we'll be working through some other resolutions for that.
And then the last thing, lead pipes. Did you guys say that you're going to go around and inspect everybody's pipes?
No, there's a federal mandate, Rob, that requires,
That's why I'm going to say this.
what's the federal law?
EPA, initially EPA has required us to do a kind of a survey, but it's basically us looking at our lines throughout the borough and determining, hey, is there possibly lead there? We've already done that survey. It was submitted yesterday. And then the next thing is to look at a plan or develop a plan as to how to get rid of it. And basically we have 10 years to get rid of the lead in the borough. Now this, if any place, it's not just in the street. It is out onto the individual's property too. We own from the main to the corporation or to the curb stop. The property owner owns from the curb stop in.
Okay, so when we heard water running, we called and the borough came out and realized there was some massive leak somewhere. It wasn't us. We thought it was something in our house going on, even though we couldn't find a leak anywhere. We didn't know what it was. Anyway, so when they came out to hear the water running that we heard when we turned off our water and turned on our water, we could still hear it. Rob said, you have lead. It was galvanized and lead. We had to have them tear up our whole front yard. We had just sodded because there was some or some lead pipes. So, I mean, what are you going to tell people they need to replace it? I mean, Or is the borough going to pay for it since we paid for ours?
The way it's set up, we would take responsibility to the curb stop.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
how are you
major
gonna do
issue
this? It's like
around the
probably
country.
every house.
Yeah, it's
We
major.
didn't know we had it.
Any other final but significant? Well, that's,
Todd Oplinger, 251 North Broad. Rob and his crew did a great job when they, I gotta say. But there was a comment earlier that brought up a real concern for me, and that is the person that saw somebody almost get hit on Cypress. Coming out, somebody about 3 or 4 months ago came up here and said there's an issue with visual seeing of traffic coming up Cypress, right there where Bavarian is on Washington Street. I can attest, I have pulled out more than once with a car almost hitting me because I couldn't see them. Whoever put the parking spots there, that at least get rid of that one closest to Washington Street so that people coming out have an opportunity to see it. Thank you.
yeah, thank you. Good comment.
Last.
You've had your, if it's, no, he can take, no, sir, you've already had your time. Come on up, sir.
All right, Rick Behinsky, 403 Chestnut Street. Just continuing on with the library stuff. So I know the borough does fund the library, and I just want to make sure you guys are tracking like the extent of the material that I'm concerned about. Before I just mention for example, the Californication television series. I have the parents guide here that has like a summary of the content. And frankly, I don't want to read it out loud. I don't know if anybody on the board would be willing to take a read of the content. Basically, there's pornographic material. And the way I'm reading this, it sounds like there's also child pornography in there. I'm obviously not going to verify. So yeah, I know we discussed before and you guys said, well, there's nothing you could do about that, but
If it helps, let me interrupt
Yeah,
you, sorry. If it helps, last year, the borough residents who voted approved a 0.02 tax, it was a 0.02 tax
0 points. Yeah.
for the library. So the residents of the borough wanted to fund the library, at least the majority of them did that voted. The borough has no control or oversight in terms of what the library does. I'm sure if there were legal issues or things that were in our authority, we could, but it's not a borough responsibility. It's certainly a voter's responsibility. If you want to take an action on that through your legislators, it's not a borough authority.
well, I guess, and I understand that from a logistical, procedural standpoint, you're saying, but is there a point, like, for example, what if there was, and there possibly is, what if there was child pornography in the library? Would you guys still have that same position that even though from a procedural standpoint?
We've gone down this road probably the 4th time now. Please make your comments. If you have no more comments.
Well, just processing what you just said.
Okay.
Sir, give me a moment.
Just one second.
Well, I guess the vibe I'm getting is that my assumption is that you guys wouldn't do anything.
That's your assumption, but please go
Yes,
ahead.
and so correct me if I'm wrong, but that's my assumption. And understood you might not have the authority to do it, but I know where I work at, right? There might be things that I don't have the authority to do, but I can still let higher levels of leadership know, especially when it comes to life or limb or moral circumstances. I put that above procedure and process and what I have, authority to take care of. And to me, pornography, especially child pornography, or misleading young kids about the true nature of being a man or a woman, targeting kids. I mean, we're getting into stuff about basically grooming kids.
So I need to clarify, if I knew there was child pornography in the library, I would call the chief because child pornography is illegal.
Okay, Chief,
But I wasn't meaning to direct the comments at you, but
Well, sure.
if there was something illegal going on in the library, I would call the police. And I just want to make that clear that
Sure, yeah,
something
yeah.
illegal was happening in the library. I don't think that talking about gender fluidity is illegal.
Understood that's not illegal, but my point is, okay, child pornography now is illegal. But what if it does become legal?
And we're not open
Well,
to that conversation here.
Could I ask you to conclude your comments, sir? It's not a dialogue, it's not a discussion. If you have
Okay.
other comments, please feel free to share them.
All right. Chief, I'd just like to notify you, I have concern that there's child pornography in the library. I don't want to investigate it, confirm it myself, but I can give you some documentation that's,
Be happy to
Okay.
hear anything that you have to report.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yep. Ken, I guess you did want your, oh. Okay, fair enough. Any other public comments? Any other public comments? Thank you. Final comments from the manager? Mayor? Manager?
Yeah, there's a pop-up on our website to check out the budget, and we'll print a copy for anyone that wants to see it, and we'll go through it with you.
Thank you very much. Council, any comments? Wednesday night, we will have a proclamation for the American Legion, our local American Legion post. So if you're around, please come out to support those folks on Wednesday night. We also have a couple new officers being sworn in. And we have two discussions. One is on short-term rental, we were talking about earlier, as a workshop, and also on this building. What do we do with this property long-term to kind of get back into that discussion as well as a group? We're looking forward to that. Very, very happy birthday to our own Mayor, Matt Fettick. His birthday is today. Happy birthday. And if you haven't, get out there and vote. Thanks. Meeting's adjourned.